This polenta soup with chicken is a delicious and easy recipe anytime, but especially in these uncertain times. I had the idea for this recipe because of two things. One, the website Cookpad. It's a site where a lot of home cooks from Argentina post their home recipes, and I saw a recipe for polenta soup, sopa de polenta, and I said, I've been on a polenta kick recently, so I want to try that. Then also, one of my subscribers, I'm not sure if he wants me to name him, but he asked me if I had any more soup recipes. So I said, hey, this would be a good opportunity to try the recipe from Cookpad. I took a lot of chef license, and this recipe kind of evolved as I made it, which you will see in this video. But I think that this is a good option because nowadays, as I'm sure everyone knows, the grocery store does not always have everything. It might not have canned soup. I know one I went to recently did not, or very little selection. There might not be pasta. There might not be this and might not be that. But this chicken soup, you can use different cups of chicken. You can use different vegetables. And instead of using pasta, it uses polenta, which may be easier to find because, as I've said in other videos, I'm not sure which video will go up before which video, but I've noticed that a lot of products that are not common or that are not things that come to mind all the time as commonly eaten in the United States, those products seem to be around more than things like eggs and milk and bread and pasta. So if you can't find pasta, you might want to add some polenta to your soup. So I'm sure you will find this recipe, which developed as I made it, delicious. And also a good thing to have in these times when we can go to the grocery store and we're not quite sure what we will find. Although you could definitely make a vegan or vegetarian version of this polenta soup, I'm going to add some chicken. What I did is I took a chicken leg quarter, I took off the skin, and I boiled it in some homemade vegetable stock. I brought it to a boil, and then I lowered it to medium for an hour, low 2 out of 6 for 15 more minutes. Then I turned off the heat and I let it cool off for about half an hour. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the meat off the bone, and then I'm going to put the meat back into the soup. After it came to a boil, I also skimmed off the soup, but honestly, that's not a critical step. I usually do not, but I decided to do it this time, just to get rid of some of the impurities. I took the meat off the bone, and now I'm going to add it to the soup. Some of it I left in bigger pieces, but now I realize I should probably have broken that up a bit. Forgot to do that. Like I said, I used a chicken leg quarter, but you can use whatever cut of meat you want. I personally would not use breast because I don't like the texture of boiled breast. Use whatever you can find in the grocery store. I know nowadays chicken is kind of hard to find, especially the breast. So maybe you'll get chicken thighs. Maybe you'll get chicken leg quarters. Maybe you'll get chicken legs. And even though I said that I don't like boiled breast, I don't think it would be terrible. I know people who use chicken breast in soup, and like I said, it's not my ideal thing to use, but it could still work. Just use whatever you can find. I think it's a flexible recipe. Now I'm going to probably add a little bit more water and add my vegetables. The chicken that I pulled off the bone is now back in my pot. It is on high heat just to bring it back up to a boil really quickly. And now I'm going to start adding my vegetables. As you can see, I tried to cut them all about the same size. I have a little bit of red onion, red bell pepper, celery, and carrot. You could definitely use frozen vegetables like frozen peas and carrot with corn. That's all about the same size. But what I've noticed is that in the grocery stores lately, frozen vegetables are really hard to come by, but the fresh are there. Not really quite sure why. I think it's because people are stocking up, and when they think of stocking up, they think of frozen, not fresh. So they're actually, at least where I go, the fresh vegetables are pretty good. So you might have to do a little bit of chopping, but I think it's an opportunity to maybe try new combinations of things that you would not have tried otherwise. And just to show you what I did with this carrot, I cut it like this. Here, let's make sure you can see. Cut it like this. I'm just gonna finish off this carrot here, and then I stack them and I cut them into fourths. This is one small carrot, a piece of a celery stick. I don't really like celery a ton, just in limited quantities. A little bit of red bell pepper and a little bit of red onion. You could use white onion. I thought about dicing up a small potato that I have on hand. Not quite sure what to do with it, but I've decided to leave it out because with the polenta, I mean, if you have a sweet potato or potato or something like that and you're trying to get rid of it, I think you could definitely put it into the polenta soup, but I think it would be better with just the polenta as a starch. So I think I'm going to add the onion first because I think it's going to need to boil a little bit longer just so that it loses its bite. It's been about 3 minutes since I added the red onion. So now I am going to add the carrots and the celery. I lowered the heat down to medium, guess mark 3 out of 6. And that is where I think I'm going to keep it. I added a bit more water, but not a ton. It's been probably 2 minutes since I added the carrots and celery. So now I'm going to add the red bell pepper. I've been stirring every once in a while, and while doing so, the bigger pieces of chicken have been falling apart. I don't know if you can tell, but now I'm getting the little shreds of chicken. That's what happens. I've noticed if you boil chicken long enough, it will fall apart into shreds all on its own. So that's why I didn't bother too much picking it apart. I'm going to let this boil for a few more minutes, then I'm going to add my polenta. It's been about 10 minutes since I added the red bell pepper, and everything is getting softer. Now it's time to add the polenta. I am adding just 20 grams or about 2 tablespoons. According to the package, 40 grams is a quarter of a cup. So since there are 4 tablespoons in a quarter cup, I'm saying that 20 grams is 2 tablespoons. So 2 tablespoons of polenta. I know you're probably thinking, that doesn't seem to be much polenta. But remember, when I make my big bowls of polenta, it's only half of a cup. It's only 80 grams. And this is 20 grams. And I'm not trying to get a big bowl of polenta. I'm trying to get polenta that's part of a soup. So that's why I'm only going to use a little bit. So here I'm going to sprinkle it in like a rain, like that. After thinking about it, I went and added 20 more grams, so 2 more tablespoons, for a total of 1/4 cup of polenta. Like I said, this recipe is evolving as I make it, And I don't want it to be polenta as in the paste, but I do want there to be some polenta in the soup. So even though I think it looks like it could use a little bit more, I'm gonna hold off. It's been 6 minutes. When I cook polenta with milk, it takes 15 minutes about. And then when I made it with vegetable stock, I think it took almost 25. So I think it still has a lot more puffing up to do. And as I cook it, the liquid will evaporate. So I do think this will end up being thicker than it is now. I just want to let you know this is evolving. And I looked at it and I thought about it and I said, I just get the feeling it really does need some more polenta. So sometimes when you cook without a recipe, that's what happens. Things are very dynamic. It's now been almost 11 minutes since I added the polenta. You can see that everything is reducing down. It is starting to look thicker. I've decided, even though this isn't very Argentine, I'm going to add some collard green to this. Partly because I need to use it up because it's starting to look a bit sad. And also because collard greens are very healthy. They actually have a lot of calcium, believe it or not. And I think the color will be nice. So we have the green from the collard green. The green from the celery is starting to look a bit faded. But the orange from the carrot and the red from the red bell pepper are still strong. Then combined with the yellow from the polenta, I think this will be nice. If you want to be more Argentine, you could add maybe spinach or some green Swiss chard, but I'm using what I have on hand. I think that the polenta soup is just about done. It's been boiling for 20 minutes since I added the polenta itself. I think 40 or 45 minutes since I added the onions. For the last 2 minutes, I turned it onto high so that it could boil off some more of the water. Because this is how it looks on CookPad, but I think I'm just so used to a creamy polenta that I'm expecting it to be a little bit creamier than it is, but it's still good. Now I'm going to season it. I'm going to add about 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt and 1/3 of a teaspoon of black pepper. I know that's an odd measurement, but that's the amount that I like. Most people, at least most of the Argentine chefs that I watch on YouTube, they say not to season your soups and stews until right before you're going to eat them, because if you're boiling something down and it has a ton of water here, if you add the salt here and you get it to have enough salt to where you like it, once it boils down, that salt or whatever spice will be more concentrated and it might be too overpowering. So just be aware of that. To serve this polenta soup, I'm going to use my ladle. And I tested the collard greens. Not gonna lie, I was kind of concerned that maybe they wouldn't get soft enough, but they're soft. I was actually shocked. They are a good texture, for me at least. So here's my homemade chicken and polenta soup. Easy, delicious. You can make it with the ingredients that you have on hand. And like I've said in this video and other videos, in times like these, when not everything is available, or maybe you're trying to watch your spending, I think a recipe like this is very useful. And even if you do have pasta, I think you could use the same process to make a chicken noodle soup. So enjoy this polenta soup recipe. Thanks for watching. Bye.